Hi everybody, welcome to another episode. This is a little bit different. This is about my computer again. The previous AIO I had in there died and I replaced it. I had to work quietly because my girlfriend was over there at the other desk and she was working, so I had headphones in and turned my microphone off just in case I picked anything up. So yeah, I'll be talking over it on my trusty old mic over here. Still works great, by the way. Video somewhere on my channel. Anyway, let's get into it. So this is what my system used to look like. The nice AIO in the top, it was bigger than the specs supposedly allowed, but it fit anyway. And then two 140mm fans in the front for some fresh air. So yeah, you start at the beginning. You take everything out that could possibly in a way. So I took my 1080 Ti out, sorry. That's the old model. Fantastic graphics card, stays around 2000 megahertz consistently, regardless really. Good piece of kit. So yeah, then remove everything. Takes quite a while, and I sped it up because otherwise it's fairly tedious. And that's the last screw of the AIO. It should come out now. Very tight fit with the RAM. It literally had like 2 or 3 millimeters to spare. I mean, it's I think in the manual it says they allow for a 30mm radiator, and this is 40 or 45. If I'll measure it if you want to know, and I'll put it down in the comments somewhere. So yeah, take the pump off, because I think what happened in the end, in the radiator, a piece of flux I think came loose, and the piece of flux swirls around and then gets stuck in the pump, because the pump sometimes would rattle like crazy, and it didn't matter if you tilted it or not, it definitely wasn't air. And yeah, if you tapped it enough it would go away, and then it would come back later again. I'm fairly sure there's something stuck in there somewhere. It probably is something to do with the cleaning when they first made it, but it worked good so far. It just wasn't reliable, and I got massive heat spikes up to like 90°C at least, even when idling. It really put me in a tight spot because I had some nice things planned that yeah, didn't work anymore. So I had to reschedule, so more stuff will be soon to come on the channel. So I bought a different AIO. You probably have seen that in my last video. It's the Fractal Design S36. It's 360mm. I decided, since you can't put that in the top, to put it in the front. But to put it in the front, with the graphics card you don't have enough length, because the graphics card is too long. Like if it was a vanilla 1080 Ti, it would have probably fit. But since this is the Asus Strix model, it's way longer and way wider, but that doesn't matter for the space. But so I had to put this, as you'll see later, put the fans on the outside, and to create enough room I had to take the hard drive cage down there out for the 3.5-inch HDDs. That's not much of a problem, because I just removed it and then put the hard drive down there in, I don't know if you can see the small holes where my hand is now roughly. Yeah, just put it there with a few screws, and it works perfectly, no vibrations or anything. Still can't hear a damn thing when that thing's on, so yeah, it works terrific. Glad it's you have different options in this case. Good job, Fractal. Really love the stuff you make. So yeah, that's where I put the hard drive, and that left me enough room to place it back, and was just fiddling around a bit with the rubber washers to make it vibration or as much vibration free as possible, and measuring and checking. because this was a bit of a gamble putting the fans on the outside. And there the hard drive's in. I only did it with 2 screws because that's all that fits. I think it's for a 2.5 inch hard drive or SSD made, but it's I'm not going to chug this system along much, if at all. So it's tight enough and it's fine. And the hard drive is heavy enough that it doesn't move at all, even when it's on. I mean, I don't even hear it when it starts spinning, really. So even with all those holes, so it's really, really quiet, which is really nice. I mean, I used to have an older Seagate hard drive, and that thing was almost the loudest thing in the case, even with like pumps running and whatnot. And this is where we do a little bit of case modding, because also the plastic shroud on the outside doesn't fit. Well, it sort of fits. It fits 2 fans easily and 3 barely, but it doesn't fit with the radiator. So what I decided to do is heat up a knife and cut some of the plastic away. This will interfere with the fan filter, as in it will not fit anymore. But as you'll see later, I fixed that by installing a few bolts through the now open 140mm slots, one below, one up, and punctured some holes in the fan filter to keep it in place. It actually looks fairly stock. I still need to buy some black bolts, but to make it color matching, and then it's all fine again. And that's how it came out. I'll take a bit of sandpaper at some point to that, and now you see that the fans fit fine. As a test case, I decided to flip the back fan around, because now I'll have a top fan for outtake as well, and just to cool the backplate of the GPU a bit. So far so good. I'll run a few stress tests in the coming week and see how hot it gets inside the case, and if this makes a difference, or if the outtake is still the preferred option. Also, while we're at it, have a spring cleaning. Well, midsummer cleaning by now, actually. But yeah, it gets dirty quick. But I also bought a new fan filter. It's from Silverstone, and it does a terrific job to place on the outside of this fan, since there's no natural fan filter there. I mean, it does impede the airflow a little bit, but you can still feel it rushing through if the fan is on. Half the time my system is running, half the fans aren't on, just to keep it quiet. And I'm kind of very glad I've managed to make my system a lot quieter in the end. And these are the Corsair ML120 fans I had on the old radiator. It actually came with 4 Arctic fans, 120mm as well, but using all 4 of them didn't fit, and just 2 of them weren't enough because they only spin up to 1300 RPM roughly. This is the amount of dust, by the way, with dust filters that you get in about 8 months. My god, that was a lot. I'll be reusing the Corsair ML120 fans because they're absolutely magnificent. They're so quiet and move so much air. So I did a bit of a hodgepodge of a system. I did push-pull on the bottom and top fan on the inside, and then had to leave the middle open for space for the graphics card. But the way I run my system basically is I use the Arctic fans on the outside of this radiator, as you'll see later. And they move quite a lot of air for the RPM they spin, but in case stuff gets kind of toasty, because the X299 chips from Intel kick out quite a bit of heat, I have these switch on at a preset. I think it's 60-ish, 65-ish Celsius right now, and then they pull the temperature right down very quickly. So that leaves for a nice quiet system. I don't think you can ever really hear it on the podcast we do every Sunday. So that's a good thing. As you can see, it barely fits. And I just mount it temporarily with some screws here so I can put some fans on easier later. And then take those out once the first fan is installed and it's all tight in there. And here I'm mounting one of the Corsair. Am I? Oh no, I remember now. I tried to put an extra 120 fan in the top, but that just wouldn't fit just because the tubing length on the S36 is so long. I took that out later. Anyway. There's a Corsair 140mm fan, the maglev fans in the top, and the 140s are actually less quiet in my opinion. I don't have a dB meter, but anyway, audibly, what I can hear, the 140 fans get louder quickly than the 120mm fans do. And I think that's the blade to hub size, because the hub size is still the same size compared to the 120s, and it's just slightly more out of balance. So as you see, this is only the 140 in there, and it looks quite good, nice and clean. Get some good cooling on the VRMs, and it all fits easily now. I'll clean up some of the cables, and this is why I couldn't go push-pull all over the car, or all over the radiator, because the card is so bloody long. You don't have enough space. Yeah, I think I have about 10 to 15 millimeters of space from the car to the radiator, which isn't all that much, but it fits as is. And I also made a slight mod to the cover plate. I cut it out so it fits perfectly around the radiator, and that you still have the look that you started off with. I did manage to scratch the radiator a little bit, but I covered that with some black marker. And these are the Arctic 120mm fans on the outside. They look terrific, and they actually are so quiet. It's especially for the amount of air they move at the RPM they have, and I think it's because of the blade design. I would recommend them, especially for the price. I think they go for around $10 or so per fan. And if you compare that to the Corsair ML Pro fans, those start at 25-ish bucks per fan. It's a no contest, really. I mean, they're really, really good, and they're really, really quiet. It's weird. On their site, they're not rated in dBA, but in Sona, which I think is a German thing for measuring sound. But I would expect. And if you put a dBA meter at full tilt, when the fans are running full tilt next to it, I think it's about 35 dBA at maximum, even through a radiator. You can barely hear them, especially once I put the fan filter on later. You can barely hear them once they're going. I mean, they start, in my case, I have them spinning at a continual 1000 RPM, and they go up when the temperature rises, but I never hear them. It's fantastic. And we're nearly ready to do some cable management, because that's... and there you have it. It turned out to be very clean this way, and you'll see later in the video a little bit what I did with the front cover. And I must say I'm very pleased with how this all went. It was quite quick and easy, but yeah. So yeah, there you have it. As I said in the video, the fans weren't made to be on the outside of the Fractal Meshify C. So I modded it a little bit with some screws or some bolts technically, and some nuts. And I'll show it to you how I've done it. I'll unclip. Hopefully this won't bother microphone or headphone users. 1 second. So this is how I modified it. The light is a bit bad, but you can see I made a little hole here and put a bolt through.